Hey, by the way guys, I finally revived my true crime channel. For those of you that don't know, I have a true crime channel where I cover real life true crime cases. And I just dropped a brand new video on my Ripshy crime channel last night. It's a crazy case and I spent a lot of time on it, so if you're into that sort of thing, make sure to check it out after this video. The link will be in the description or just type Ripshy crime in the YouTube search bar. Now, on to the scary stories. Hopefully everybody has a good Thanksgiving coming up. Last Thanksgiving, I was on my way from Ohio to Florida with my girlfriend to spend the holiday with my family. We left late and I was really tired, but we wanted to drive straight through so we had more time there. I got almost out of West Virginia, around exit 114 on 77 South, I think, and I was running low on gas. It was around 2 in the morning at that point. I used my GPS to find a gas station near the highway and it said there was one coming up, so I took the exit right away. After a couple of minutes of driving in the middle of nowhere, I got to the gas station. I pulled in and it looked mostly abandoned besides the clerk you could see through the window and a car and a truck around the corner on the other side of the lot. My girlfriend was asleep in the passenger seat and I decided to let her sleep. I started the pump and decided to run in and use the restroom and wash off my makeup since it was almost my turn to sleep. When I got into the gas station, the clerk was really surprised and told me that he thought the door was locked and that I shouldn't have been able to get in. I told him I really had to use the restroom and he let me go back. The whole conversation was just a few seconds long and I kind of jogged to the restroom, and just as the restroom door was swinging shut, I heard the front door ding again. I thought it was the clerk locking up. I finished up and went to go back to my car, and just as I was heading for the door, the clerk almost yelled, "Hold on, don't go out there." He started asking a bunch of questions about who I was with, like, "Who was in your car?" When he realized I was confused, he got more concerned looking and started asking me questions about the big guy. He said some guy followed me up to the gas station and came in just after me and started asking about me like he knew me or was with me. The clerk said that after the guy walked back out, he went over to my car and was hovering around it for a while and then went back behind the gas station. The entire time he was talking, the clerk looked freaked. He told me to get back to my car quickly and that he would keep an eye on me until I got there. As I was reaching for my door handle, my girlfriend unlocked the door. I got in, she locked it behind me, and I realized she was in a complete panic mode. She told me to drive now. She said she woke up and saw some guy come into the gas station right behind me, and when he came back out, he came over and started knocking on the window, asking about me, asking what we were doing, and demanding that she open the door. She just kept shaking her head no and staring forward while he just kept asking questions and saying, "Oh, so you're going to be like that?" She said he just seemed like a creepy guy that was weirdly trying to get a date, but I couldn't stop thinking about how he followed me up to the gas station. If the door had been locked like the clerk said, I would have turned around and probably run right into him. I couldn't help but think about what could have happened. There was no way I could have fought him off if he would have tried something. My girlfriend is weaker than me, and the clerk wasn't really big himself. I don't think anybody could have helped us if anything happened. I ended up driving for a few more states because I couldn't sleep. I just kept thinking about what could have happened. About 2 nights ago, I went to see the new Wicked movie with my family who was in town for Thanksgiving. I arrived back to my house around midnight. I live alone in a shared but divided house with 2 other tenants living inside. One is upstairs and one splits the downstairs with me, so there are 3 apartments total. My place is in the back of the house and has a back porch you can enter through after walking up the whole driveway. When I got home, I sat in my bedroom and did about 20 to 30 minutes of work on my computer. During this time, the house was very quiet and I kept hearing a man's voice continuously talking. Now keep in mind, the tenant above me is a man and I know his bedroom is right above mine because I previously lived up there. It sounded like he was talking on the phone just because of how long and continuous the talking went on. I tried to listen and figure out where the voice was coming from, and I couldn't exactly pinpoint it, but it was either coming from through the ceiling or on the other side of my room. Now, it must be noted that my bedroom connects to the porch with a door that I have blocked with my dresser. There's a main door inside the porch that you use to get into the house, but there's also this strange door connecting to my room. I couldn't make out the words, but because of how firm and continuous the voice was going on, I figured it just had to be coming from my housemate upstairs. It's the only thing that made logical sense. I just kept on thinking though. I've never heard a single voice come through that ceiling before. It's not that thin. Whatever, I thought. I'm worrying about nothing. After 30 minutes of computer work, I got up to brush my teeth, feed my fish, and get ready for bed. I come back into my room, turn off the lights, and get in bed. It's been about 45 minutes to an hour since I first heard the voice, and I could still hear it. Damn, I thought. My housemate is chatting up a storm on the phone up there. After about 3 minutes of lying in bed, I all of a sudden heard my porch door creaking, along with the talking man's voice. It has a very distinct sound that I knew immediately was my porch door. I crept across my room and put my ear to the dresser / the door that connects to the porch. Sure enough, the talking was coming from inside my porch, and I could hear the door moving and shuffling inside my porch along with it. My heart absolutely dropped. All the lights were off in my house at this point, so I had a sort of sneaky advantage to creep around my house and get a view of what was going on. I crept down my hallway and peered into the kitchen, which the porch leads into. Across the kitchen, through the door, and in a streak of moonlight, I just see a man with long, scraggly hair, sitting curled up in the center of my porch, turned around with his back to me, muttering out loud to himself and rocking back and forth. My fight or flight kicked in, and I immediately ripped open the door and started screaming at him to get out and tried intimidating him. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have made myself so vulnerable without a weapon handy, but like I said, I was just in fight or flight. I can't explain my actions in this moment other than reacting out of fear and determination to scare him out. Anyways, this dude didn't even react to me whipping open the door and screaming at him. Not even a flinch. He simply turned his head to the side very slowly and said, "My name is Evan." This freaked me out so much for some reason, especially because he still hadn't turned around or shown his face. I said I don't care and kept cursing at him to leave, and he slowly rose up with his hands up and said, I know, I'm hiding." He wasn't saying it in a pleading way though. He said it with this almost childlike, playful tone that freaked me the absolute heck out. I hated this. The fact that he kept trying to reason with me and act so mysterious while still not even turning around to show his face just pissed me off. Who do you think you are, bro? I ran him out of the porch and was threatening him. Now, I assume it was just a homeless man who was under the influence of something, as I do live in an inner city area and it's common to see homeless people near my street. But I don't know, man. The sight of seeing him on my porch and knowing he was in there for at least an hour beforehand, while I was sitting right there, just freaked me out. I was in full-blown defense mode by the time I opened that door, and I wasn't willing to waste any time to do a character dive on the guy. No imaginable situation would permit anyone to be on my porch like that at that hour. Needless to say, I'll be double-checking my porch lock every night from now on. It's funny because having my room connected to the porch, I always had this horrific intrusive thought that I'd hear someone in there one night. Looks like it came true. I grew up in a suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina that has a virtually non-existent crime rate. My father and I moved there when I was 6. He was always busy, so I pretty much had to raise myself. So naturally, I attended school there and made all of my lifelong relationships there, and so on and so forth. In 2008, I was a senior in high school. I had a very close-knit group of friends, primarily composed of people I had known since middle school. One such friend had just recently come back from Holly Hill, which was our local mental hospital. Matt had been gone for a couple of weeks. I saw him in the courtyard before heading to class. Unfortunately, I didn't really have time to talk, so all I said to him was, "Welcome back. I missed you." I would have risked being late to class if I had known that would be the last thing I would say to him. Matt had suffered from depression and dementia for years, but he kept a pretty good rap on the details, so none of his friends really had a big inkling of how severe it was until the aforementioned treatment at our local mental hospital. We got out of school for Thanksgiving break, and one of our mutual friends messaged me on Facebook and asked if I'd like to go paintballing with them on the night of the 30th. I had to turn them down because I had to see my grandparents the next morning for a late Thanksgiving celebration. It wasn't a big deal, just kind of a disappointment. Break came and went. We went back to school. Matt was absent again. There had been a rumor floating around that he had run away from home and gone to Washington, D.C. to look for his birth mother. But I wasn't sure I believed that. Especially that he would go off on this long-term trip without at least mentioning it to me first. In between switching classes, I called his cell phone to find it off. I didn't think much of it. A few days later, during lunchtime, there was a buzz around the school that Allegra, our mutual friend from earlier, and Adil, someone else who I was more acquaintances with than friends, but I knew of him, had been taken out of class and arrested. We had no idea what happened, but I had a strange feeling that it had something to do with Matt's absence. After that, all I could really think about was where Matt was and the fact that Allegra sat right behind me in Shakespeare class and that she was so tired that she slept through class the day we came back from break. The school tried to keep everything quiet in regard to the students, ear-rising and talking to one another, but it was high school and word travels fast. When we weren't talking, we were texting each other about it. Our local news website reported in an article that 4 of Matt's friends had been arrested in connection with the body found in Allegra's parents' summer home. You guessed it. It was Matt. 2 years afterward, Allegra, Adele, and 2 other people from Matt's circle of friends went on trial. Allegra received 2 consecutive 20-year terms for conspiracy to commit murder and murder in the second degree. Adele received the same. 2 others in the trial received a life sentence for first-degree murder and accessory after the fact of first-degree murder. I watched the trial unfold. All of the trial is available online as well if anyone wanted to learn about it. There are a lot more details than I can post here without boring everyone, but you should be able to type in some details into Google and find the story. They killed him on the night of November 30th, the night they asked me to come paintballing with them. There was a period of time where I kicked myself for not going that night. I like to think that I would have had some, if a little, influence in stopping them. There is a man that lives on my street in town. Our houses are separated by another house. The front of his house looks pretty normal, besides the fact that he always has his shades drawn. I've never seen inside. Never. I've lived there for 2 years, walking back and forth to class every day. I've never seen him use the front door. However, out my back window, I see a lot of his backyard. In the back, there are large metal tubes running out of the back first floor windows and into the basement windows. It looks like he has a shed in the back with no windows and 2 large padlocks on the door. He spends hours in this shed. The weirdest thing is that all summer, May to September, he sleeps in his backyard in a tent. He has 2 companions, only in the summer. A teenage boy, approximately 15 years old, very dirty and unkempt, and a very, very creepy man with a beard. They stay with him in the tent. During the day, they take bikes with carts in the back and bike around town picking up useless junk. Deflated basketballs, old shoes, random pieces of metal. I've tried so many times to rationalize everything he does, like, oh, he's just an eccentric guy. Maybe he just makes sculptures in a shed. But he just sends off this dead, cold, murderous vibe that I can't shake. I've taken to calling him Ed Gein. I know I seem like a nosy neighbor, but most of the things I see are either on my way to class or I just notice him doing something strange out my window. Like I said, I try and assume the best of him, but things just get weirder and weirder. Here are a few things I've noticed. The first thing we noticed, obviously, was the tent. He put it up the first week we moved in and proceeded to sleep in it for the rest of summer. We began thinking of reasons why he would sleep in the backyard. And that's when we noticed the tubes. Maybe he has something going on in his house that endangers him. Chemicals? The next thing we noticed was the fires. I work close to home, so I often walk. It is a pretty safe city, so I don't mind walking alone at night. I'm only nervous passing that house. About once or twice a month, these guys have bonfires in the back. It is always really weird smelling. You can smell the fire smell, but there is another scent with it. I have smelled burning wood, plastic, rubber, fabric, etc. This smells more meaty, like some kind of animal cooking, but it is more sour and tar-like almost. It is a similar smell every time they have a fire. Another thing we noticed first moving in was his long brown-haired dachshund. It was a violent little dog. It would scream and bark and chomp its teeth at anyone that passed by, which, I'm not an expert, but aren't dachshunds pretty calm and gentle? It just seems strange for it to be so violent. Roughly the middle of our first year in the house, the dachshund wasn't around anymore. We noticed because it didn't try to attack us as we walked by. It was gone for 5 months, and then there was a new dog. At least I think it was. It was a short-haired dachshund, but it was black and a little bigger, but just as violent. Next was the teenage boy. From what we've seen, the boy doesn't seem to be related. He seems more like a helper at the house. I've seen him going through junk on the porch and what seemed to be picking up rocks in the driveway. But several times we have caught him just zoned out, staring at nothing. And then the man with the beard. My story involving him was one of the scariest moments of my life. I went grocery shopping with one of my roommates one night and we were just turning down our street on the way home. I glanced over at my neighbor's yard and the man with the beard was just standing there, like he was waiting for us to get back, staring at the car as it passed. He had a sinister expression on his face. My heart started beating fast. He followed the car with his eyes, then started running towards the car and stopped dead, turned around and walked back to the house. I couldn't sleep that night. His actions just scared and confused me. Did he just want to scare me? Why else would he do that? I'm not saying these mean anything, but they are strange and make me feel uncomfortable living so close. Does anyone have any ideas of what is going on? Edit. Quick update. Neighbors being really effing creepy tonight. I was sitting in my room with my boyfriend with the window open. My boyfriend glances out the window and sees the man with the beard. He is scruffy and emaciated and standing near a garbage can. In the dark, at night, staring off down the road. He did this for a good 2 minutes before he began walking back towards the neighbor's house, taking very slow shuffling steps. I was holding my breath, hoping that he wouldn't look up towards the window. Thankfully, he didn't. My boyfriend and I shared terrified glances. Moments later, he comes walking back towards our house, this time accompanied by our neighbor. They both have their bikes with little carts on the back. As they pass, we hear this. "I'll have to get my tent and bring it to your living room so we can go camping at your house." And they both begin to laugh as if it was some sort of inside joke. I will not be sleeping tonight. This was a strange encounter. It was very scary at the time, but when I tell people this story, they usually don't think it was something to freak out about. Last Thanksgiving, I was driving home from college with my friend, both 21 female at the time. I live in a very isolated part of Arkansas that requires driving through an hour of hairpin turns in the mountains. There are lots of blind turns, and the whole time you are driving on the edge of huge drop-offs with no barriers. I'm usually pretty confident driving through the mountains, but we were in my friend's car, so I was going slower than usual, driving about 5 over the speed limit. Almost as soon as we started the roughest part of the drive, another car was tailgating us pretty closely. This was stressing me out, and as soon as I saw somewhere I could pull over, I did. I pulled into a church parking lot and my friend offered to drive the rest of the way, but I declined as it was completely dark and she had never driven this route before. We get back on our way and a few minutes later, I had to come to a screeching halt as there was a car stopped in the middle of the road. It wasn't on the shoulder at all. It just stopped dead in the middle of the road. My friend is saying that they must have broken down but can't call a tow because there's no service in this area. I immediately have a bad feeling and lock the doors. I tell my friend to stay in the car no matter what. She's starting to get scared at this point and points out that she thinks it was the car that was following us. I can't tell, but I'm very scared at this point too. It's parked right before a hairpin turn, so I can't pass it. My friend starts frantically telling me to go ahead and pass it, but I don't want to get hit by a Mack truck or fall off the mountain. I honk my horn. Nothing happens. No chance of calling for help as there is no cell service. We wait there for a while doing nothing. My friend is crying and freaking out, but I'm too scared to try to pass them. I honk a couple of times and eventually a guy gets out of the car, comes around back and leans against his car, just staring at us. My friend is freaking out even more and I'm just frozen. I tell her not to make eye contact. I'm ready to floor it if he does something, but he just stands there staring. He's not checking his car or anything. I try to stay calm and pray that another car will come along soon. This goes on for what seems like forever, but was maybe 15 minutes. He's just casually leaning against his car looking at us. Eventually, we see car lights in our rear view, and then the guy jogs to his door and gets back in his car. He speeds off, going dangerously fast, so there was nothing wrong with his car. I start driving, not wanting to cause a wreck. We don't see anything else for a while, but we pass the same car parked along the highway a while later, and it pulls back on and starts tailing us again. I try to speed up and get rid of him, but he keeps following. We have cell service at this point, but I don't know if we should call the cops because nothing has really happened. I call home and tell my brothers what was going on and tell them to wait on the porch for us. The car follows me all the way home down the really long drive to my house. I get to my house and my 2 brothers are waiting on the porch holding their deer rifles. I pull in and the car goes to the end of the drive, loops around and speeds off back the way it came. We tried to see its plates, but we couldn't make them out. I and my friends were really freaked out, but when I told other friends the whole story, they didn't think it was a big deal.